because sometimes Facebook is not my friend sometimes. So I always record it, and then we're going to go live on Facebook. So give me just a few seconds. Let me pull all my stuff up. Too many devices in my life. And
And this is streaming on
yep,
what page? The
it'll
Queen
be
City?
it'll be streaming on the Queen City page, and we'll share it. I'll share it into some of the groups that like your teams and stuff, as well as our community. Um, all right, I'm gonna go live. Let's hope Facebook likes to cooperate. This is always my least favorite part. Last week we were doing a show, and one of our our participants was slamming Facebook as we went live, so it was super funny. They're like, Facebook needs a phone number. Oh, see, it's likely to be stupid. Hold on. It's being silly. I knew it was going to try to give me trouble today. All right, looks like it's working.
Are you streaming it now?
Almost. I got to just put in the description and the title.
Elkie, I wanted to tell you that I remember you improvising during the audition for the Global Improv Project, Women and Non-Binary Teams, and I found you to be like so funny. I really enjoyed your improv.
Oh, thank you. You too. You have this I remember you had like this dry delivery.
Thanks. Yeah, I've heard that before.
Awesome. Well, we are officially live. I love that we started with people complimenting each other. I think that's fantastic. I think improvisers don't compliment each other enough. So, welcome to the Global Gab. Those of you guys watching, this is episode number 13. My name is Carla Dingle. I'm with Queen City Comedy, and I am joined by three fabulous improvisers from across the United States of America. Wow, I don't know when the last time was I actually said the United States of America. That's weird. That felt very weird. I don't understand. I'm sorry. I just feel like I had to share that. And we're just going to talk about some improv, get to know them. And I'm going to start with doing some introductions. So I'm going to spotlight their face, which is my favorite part because everyone always reacts, even though they know it's coming. And we're going to have them start by just introducing themselves. So we're going to start with Chris.
Hello, world. Yeah, I'm Chris. I am an improviser based in Seattle. Total improv obsessive and improv nerd. I've probably internalized all of Will Hines' improv nonsense blog, and yeah, I love to coach as well. Been coaching for a little over a year now. I'm a performer with Bandit Theater, which is based in Seattle. I play on the Awkward Show. I'm also going to be playing on this show called Who is High? And I'm so excited also to be playing with Queen City Comedy as part of an all-women / non-binary improviser group, having so much fun with that.
Awesome. Yes. And you guys will be making your debut later in the spring. And I can't wait. All right. Next, we'll have Steven.
Hey, I'm Steven Gillikin. I'm an improviser, also an actor in Los Angeles. And I've been doing improv actively a little over 10 years. In the last 2 years, I've transitioned into also designing workshops and coaching and teaching and that kind of thing. Yeah, I also have a cat who is outside right now. At some point in the next hour, might try to come in, hopefully not. And that's where I am today.
All right, fantastic. And last but not least, of course.
Oh, me? Yeah, I'm Elkie. I'm from New York. I've been doing improv for about 10 years, sketch as well, videos, web videos. Yes, I'm on TikTok at LKCD. But I love improv. Like I I love the idea of coming on this show because I know that I'm going to be talking about some improv, and I am a self-proclaimed improv junkie. I need it. Yeah, and Chris mentioned something. I don't know if it was before we went live, but you mentioned that that the Zoom has been like a godsend for improv, and this is like honestly, like I don't know what we would have done if there was no like Zoom. Like we'd be like in the alleys, like, hey, anybody got a scene going on? Can I get in on that scene?
Yeah, no,
Like,
no.
baby.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I was telling my mother yesterday that, like, pretty sure that I would be in some sort of facility with locked doors, and my husband probably would as well, but for two different reasons. If I hadn't had improv online, I probably would have completely just been just lost and needed somewhere to go. And my husband might have injured me if I hadn't had online improv because it's just been such a blessing. I that's at least how I feel. We typically talk about online improv later on, but let's just talk about it now. Some of you guys are doing a lot. Some of you are doing a little. Let's start with online improv. How do we feel about it? What's it been doing for you?
I think it's been saving us, really.
Yeah.
We're like, I mean, we're still able to express ourselves. I mean, we're limited, but Zoom also lends itself to more possibilities of incorporating different things, that we can't do on stage, right? Like all these backgrounds, right? And these filters. You could be an actual horse in a scene instead of the audience having to imagine that you're a horse. You know what I mean? I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. I'd love to share kind of my remote improv origin story because I've found it to have an effect on people who haven't tried remote improv yet or are maybe skeptical of it. So when I first started quarantining back in like mid-March 2020, I had never done remote improv before. I'd never thought about it. And so when it finally dawned on me that, I'm going to have to stay inside for an indeterminate amount of time and not be in a room with my improviser friends, not get to do scenes, I thought that meant I don't get to do improv until this is over. And so for like 48 hours, I was in like, I mean, it may sound petty compared to like the very real problems that exist in the world, but I was in like the deepest depression. And as I read more and more about like COVID and the pandemic and how long we might actually have to wait, I thought that meant like, what would that mean? Like 2 years without doing improv? Like I felt so depressed that I, for a moment, wished that I had never studied improv because then I wouldn't have to feel so heartbroken. And then I saw an email from a friend in the Seattle community about how he had created this Discord server and how he was going to be hosting this audio only remote jam. And I was skeptical at first, thinking like, how can anyone do remote improv? How could this ever be as good? But I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll give it a chance. And then within the first minute of being in the jam, I heard my friends' voices. We got to do scenes. I realized that I was smiling and laughing for the first time in 2 days. And from then I was a total convert. I would recommend it for anyone who likes improv. Remote improv is fun and soul nourishing.
How about you, Stephen? What's been your thoughts with improv online?
Well, I would second a lot of what I just heard. But for me, I would say what I would add, the key perspective I've had on it is I've tried to view virtual as like its own medium. Like I'm not replacing improv. I'm just doing a different medium of improv. And what's exciting about that too, is that means hopefully in the next couple of months, we're probably going to have two completely very similar but distinct avenues to do improv now, the live and the virtual, because I don't think either is going to be going away. So that part's exciting. So even though for much of this pandemic, it's felt like we're replacing it, it's not. We've explored and discovered a whole new way to do improv now.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And we can talk a little bit about that. It does feel like its own art form, right? Like, you know, when you look at improv, there's short form, there's narrative, there's long form, right? So there's these different types of improv categories. And I feel like virtual or online or whatever we want to call it is going to be its own medium. I really loved like playing with props and costumes. Like I literally have this lovely drink, right? There's nothing in it, so don't be excited. But I have all these things around me in my world now that I bring in where I would not have been able to do that. I mean, I guess I could have done that on stage. We just never included props and costumes and things like that. And so I think that's been fun. Elke mentioned the backgrounds, some of the Snapchat filters blow my mind. Like I did a scene with a fish one day. I don't even know what was happening. It was the most interesting. This fish had some really sad stuff to talk about. And like, again, it's just a whole different world. And I think also for those of us who are actors like Elke and Steven, you know, maybe it's honing both crafts at the same time, right? Because we're on camera, we're able to visualize. I don't know, do you guys leave your self view on, or do you take it off when you play?
I leave it on.
Yeah, so you can kind of go back and watch your stuff like game tapes, right? Like football players or basketball players, and analyze. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens once the world opens back up again. I think that there's a place for it. I know I work with a lot of international players who I would never have the opportunity to play with.
Yeah.
And that's been really, yeah, you do a two-prov with someone who's in Mumbai, India, right? Like, how would that have ever have happened? And then someone in England. So yeah, it's amazing the connections. So
yeah, there's so many, it's so many possibilities. It's like, it's an opportunity for us to go beyond improv, but like still improv, but you know, like beyond, like, cause I feel like it should stay even when, you know, everybody's back, you know, maybe not as often as it is, but maybe, you know, a monthly, you know, for people that can't make it out to the theater, because that's the beauty of it. You could sit in your house, right, and you can watch the show, or you could sit in your house and perform the show. That's the biggest beauty of it, because I'm a person to put it bluntly, I'm always late. So this helps with transit time so much, you know what I mean? Because even if I'm in transit, I can still perform the show. I've done it. I've been at airports. I've been at the supermarket. I've done it. You know what I mean? It's beautiful.
yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
find
and-
it's not just, I was gonna say, it's not just saving the time with virtual, but like saving your energy. Because like for me, like traffic takes a noticeable amount of social energy from me. And so like now I'm tired when I get to the theater, because it's like, oh, it took me 50 minutes to get here. And like, whereas virtual, it's like I'm at home, I'm comfortable. It's just like, boop, no, I'm playing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also like way fewer cost barriers. You know, like if you find yourself having some free time on a Wednesday night and you want to do some improv, you could just like text someone now. You could just do a phone call if you want. Like, gone are the days where we have to spend like X number of dollars per hour to rent a space unless we really want to. We don't have to do that. Like, we can go extended periods of time without putting money toward improv, or, you know, saving up our money for the things that like we really want to focus on, like a special workshop or a class.
Yeah, plus there's the accessibility. I think Elke mentioned like anyone can do it, but like, you know, someone who's a mother with several children, right? Like the cost to pay a sitter versus now they're asleep, I'm gonna go do some improv. Or people who, you know, have, you know, physical or mental barriers that are holding them back. Like I work with someone who's blind, who's taking a class with me here. For her to, you know, get out and at night and commute to a location, like that's not as convenient. Plus there's parking, transportation. So it has really been great. And I've loved that, like any time of the day that I want to do some improv, no matter if it's like 3 a.m. and I can't sleep, somebody's doing some improv somewhere, which is really amazing. Whereas that was definitely not accessible like that for me. Let's kind of rewind and talk about your improv origin story. What got you into improv? What made you say, "Let me do some improv. Let me take an improv class"? Who? Let's find out where it all started.
Well, I can start. So I had been interested in doing improv, but financially, I didn't have enough money to, take a class or, do stuff. So I was in like the stand-up circuit, but not as a stand-up. I was helping produce a stand-up show, and we would do like little skits, and that's where I came in as well. We did like video skits, and I met I started eventually doing my own shows with stand-ups and stuff, and I would do characters. And I had a stand-up that came on my show that he was like heavily into like a New York Comedy Club. I don't know, you guys don't know the distance. The New York Comedy Club is down the street from the Pit, which is in New York City, the People's Improv Theater. And he said he walks by it all the time. He's like, they have a free jam. You should go with me. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And I was like, free. That's all I had to hear. Free. So I went and I loved it. I mean, we was like, let's do this. Let's keep doing this. So we kept going week after week. And eventually they started another jam that was free on another night. So I was like, well, let me start going to that one. And then I started going to that one, and I got known, and they, the host asked me to be his co-host. And I was doing that for 8 years, not with him, but with different, because, people left, but I stayed strong because I loved it. I made sure every week I was there, and I didn't get paid for it because, it's improv, baby. But I did it because I love improv, and it was geared towards students and beginners, the jam. And so it felt good to I guess, help people find their funny that didn't know how to before. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain. It makes sense in my head, but when I try to spit it out there, it doesn't. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think you mentioned free. Like, that's such a big deal. Money can be such a barrier for people. So I'm glad there was some opportunities for you to jump in that way. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, so Elke, I'll say real quick that I love the idea of like getting your start in jams and jamming so much, and also like stepping up and helping to co-host. Like, I'm just such a big believer in jams. Go to more jams, everybody. Yeah, so I've been improvising now for like 2 years and I think 4 months. As of tomorrow might be my little improv mini anniversary. And prior to that, improv was not really on my radar so much, and I didn't really know what it was outside of Whose Line Is It Anyway, short form style improv. But I really loved The Office and Parks and Rec and 30 Rock and The Colbert Report. And so I would find myself in positions where like I would just be like reading comedy memoirs a lot. I had nothing to do with like the professional comedy world. I was always in some like little office admin type job, but like during my lunch break, I would read these comedy memoirs, and people like Stephen Colbert and Tina Fey and Amy Poehler would mention having done this thing called improv. So it was always like in the back of my head, though I didn't really know what they meant when they said that they were doing improv, and then I would kind of forget about it. And here in Seattle, there's the space is unfortunately, as of very recently, no longer in use, but there's this big yellow building called Jet City Improv, and I would walk past it every day for like years. And then eventually, like the neurons in my mind connected and were like, wait, that's that improv thing. So like I went to their website, signed up for a class, and I mean, I have to tell you, by the end of that first 2-hour class, I found that I was smiling and laughing in a way that was new to me. I am by nature an introvert. I find small talk and like general networking type stuff to be like completely depleting. I don't think I'm good at it, or if I ever seem to be good at it, like it's coming at a real like invisible cost. And I find it like, and like many adults, I have like a really hard time making friends. And then improv like changed all of that. It was like amazing how I could be in a space with people and I didn't have to talk about myself. Instead, I could just disappear into someone else. I could experiment and build familiarity with people that way, cultivate friendships that way. And all of a sudden, it was as if like I had figured out some like major secret to being alive. Like it never has to be hard to make friends because there's improvisers everywhere. And even if there's a space with no current improvisers, every human being is a potential improviser, you know? So yeah, then I was like immediately hooked. And so from the very beginning, I was just doing as much of it as I possibly could, like jamming at least once per week, going to at least one show per week. I was able to start performing through this long form improv club called The Loop through CSC Seattle by like my 5th month as an improviser, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity because that like gave me the chance to really grow, you know, be on stage. And yeah, I really can't recommend improv enough. It changed my life.
Oh, that's so great to hear. How about you, Stephen?
I mean, I don't have that exciting of a thing, I suppose. I'd always been aware of like comedy and improv. And as an actor, my comfort has always been more so in comedic acting. So at some point, it was 2011, that February is when I took my first class at UCB in Hollywood. And honestly, it was just because I was trying to further develop myself and my skills as an actor and whatnot. And yeah, obviously I very much fell in love with it. I was one of those people who like, you know, every night, not every night of the week, but many nights a week was like lined up outside UCB trying to get like a spot to like watch a show or whatever. And so then for those first few years, as I went through the UCB system, it was very much an extension of my professional aspirations. But then in 2016, I had a moment, kind of what Chris is talking about, where I met a local workshop here in LA by my friend Jeff Perdue. And he was running it on Meetup, and I found it on Meetup, and I was like, this can't be real. People do improv on Meetup. It's a very popular thing. I do that myself now. But it was amazing that like just working with like truly everyday people, not someone who's like, I'm an everyday person, maybe I'm an actor. It's like, no, like I'm just here to do this fun thing. And like to be able to socialize in that kind of way and to like not worry about like, are we competing with each other? Who's got the better scene? Like that to me is the most amazing thing about improv, like the community and like the sort of communistic in a sense, but like how we truly are, like it's a non-judgmental, completely equal space. And that's amazing to me.
It's a cult.
It could be, yes, it certainly could be.
Yeah, I do think though, Stephen, to your point, there's a difference sometimes in improvising with people who are actors that are using improv as a training tool and perhaps a stepping stone versus improvising with a community of people that just love improv. There's a different, maybe the wrong word, but intensity sometimes to it. Maybe that's the word. And I think you get something different from both groups. Neither is better than the other, but it is really a distinct difference I've noticed as working with people. Well, we have some folks watching us, and our friend Asad Khan has some questions for us. So the first one is for you, Elgie. I don't even know what this means. I'm just going to read it for you. Can you make everyone on the panel do the improv baby dance? That was what he wanted to know. That's completely up to you. I'm just sharing the question. The answer could be no. We don't have to say yes and here.
No, I was hoping to save it for the end, but since he spoiled it and brought it out, I'll share it.
All
No,
right.
it came from the Elkie and Asadi show. I think it was on the first episode. I just started doing this dance and I started saying, it's improv, baby. And it caught on. And And this is what we do after every scene. It's improv, baby.
Oh,
So
I love it. A little
side to
handshaking
side.
and a twisting. All right,
Yes,
fantastic.
it's
We'll make this
improv,
a
baby.
clip. Everyone all together at the same time. Ready? It's improv,
Improv,
baby.
baby.
There we go. Fantastic. I like
All
it. That's
right.
how you guys edit your scenes. I love it. Great. He also has more questions for Steven, and we'll let everyone answer this because it's such a great question. Who is your biggest inspiration in the improv world?
Oh no, I don't know. I wouldn't say I necessarily have. Yeah, I don't have an I mean, there's a lot of teachers I have who I've enjoyed, and a lot of performers I enjoy watching. Yeah, I could fake an answer, but I don't have a genuine answer for like an individual.
That's okay. Awesome.
sorry.
Anyone? That's all right. Anyone else have someone who's an inspiration for them?
Yeah, I've got to go with a four-way tie. I hope that's not too much.
Yeah,
of a
go
cheat.
ahead. The more we share the love, the better. That's how I look at it.
But I really feel like I have learned the most through watching the TJ and Dave specials. They're on Vimeo, highly recommend. Through like reading, I'm going to plug it again. I get nothing out of plugging Will Hines' stuff, but I do it all the time through reading Improv Nonsense. And also like, I think he did like a thing called In the Moment where he's talking about the Herald. It's on YouTube, maybe with Vinnie Francois, I forget, but it's also great. And then also Viola Spolin, her book Improvisation for the Theater. You can flip open to it and read a random sentence, and it's just inspiring. Many more people, of course, but four-way tie with those.
Yeah. Yeah, we can always plug Will Hines. So you can plug whoever. He was so much fun in our Global 3-on-3. Okay, how about you? Any inspirations? Anyone that stands out?
Well, I gotta say, I'm a huge Sherry O'Terry fan.
Yes.
She's so hilarious. Like she could read the phone book and do it. I would find it hilarious. She's like, because she's the short one. I'm 5'2". So, and she's short, and I appreciate her bigness despite being, you know, a small little thing, you know what I mean? But everything she played was huge. She played large. I mean, she's not dead, but like if you're watching Sherry, I'm sorry, but I love you, girl. No, she's great. And to even go further, I would say Lucille Ball. Even though what she did on TV, a lot of that stuff, she had to elongate a lot of stuff because she got so many laughs. Like I think she has a record for the longest laugh for the episode where she had all the eggs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They were doing a dance and he crushed them and then it was just leaking. It was like a minute, I think, is the record. They were laughing and they had to cut it, but like she held it. And that's improv, baby.
Yeah. The dance is there. I would say I'm kind of like you. I have two inspirations, I think, that stand out for me in the comedy world. One is Rachel Dretch. I just think the woman needs more attention and focus on her genius. And then Melissa McCarthy. And for me, it's a little similar to Elke. I'm a plus-size girl. And she was one of the first to really just see her out there not caring. And just like her commitment to things was something I could dream of having, because I'm always a little, I feel hesitant inside. I try not to portray that, but it never looks like she's hesitant, and that is something that really draws me to it.
Oh my God, I don't know if you've seen she's been on SNL so many times, but there was this one where she was playing like a Mae West type old-timey character. She was like, why don't you come up and see me sometime? I don't know if you guys ever seen that sketch where she had to literally like slide down the stairs on her belly. Like It was, and she fell down the stairs every time, but the commitment to it, she was like, fuck it. Like, and it almost looked like she would just let her body go. Like, go ahead, take it.
Yeah, it's great. My favorite one was her playing Chris Farley with the man who had the van down by the river. That was my favorite of her. So again, talk about commitment and then more commitment.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we have one more question from Assad, which is, who was the best teacher, or who are some of the best teachers that you've ever had? People that stand out in your improv world.
Yeah, I
Okay.
definitely want to shout out here in Seattle, Kayla Teal. She and also Taya Beatty. The two of them together co-taught my first improv course that I took, and they made the environment so safe and joyful and welcoming. Um, and I really feel like the environment that they set up, and also they're just like so masterful with improv. So like they were bringing the information alongside the joy, alongside the safety. And that was one thing that I was wondering about, since I didn't come from the comedy world, but I had heard horror stories. I didn't know what to expect. And so like, if I had had a bad experience in those first 8 weeks, I don't think I would have stuck with improv, which would have been a real shame, as it's such a happiness booster. So yeah, Kayla Teal, Taya Beatty, shout out.
Awesome. Okay, I feel like you were about to say something. Who's a good teacher that you remember?
So when I was at the pit, doing the jams and hosting, I hadn't taken classes yet because I was working up for it. There was an intern program where you had to do like a certain amount of hours before you get qualified for, a class. So I was still like in the process. So during that time, I got to know who the performers are that are teaching the classes, because I'm that type of person. Like if I'm going to learn something from you, I got to find you funny. Like if I've seen your improv and I didn't laugh, I don't want to take your class. So there was this teacher, Steve Soroka. He was my level 1 teacher at the pit, and he was hilarious. He was on one of the house teams, and every scene he was in, like, always gets a laugh. And I was like, that I want to learn with him, and his class was great. And the thing is, when I started teaching hosting the jams, he would bring his classes after class. He would go with it. He'd be like, hey, there's a jam, because it was a late night jam. Hey, who wants to head over to the jam? And not many teachers did that, because they'll be like, oh, there's a jam afterwards, you guys might want to go. But if your teacher's going, they're like, yeah, sure, let's go. Let's carry the fun over. And he would jump on stage sometimes to help a scene out. He was a very giving instructor. Like he loved to have fun, and he knew how to tell you your business without making you feel like shit.
Yeah, that's important. Very important.
That's important. Not everybody has good bedside manner. So.
Awesome. I love that you guys are shouting out your like level 1 teachers. Like level 1 teachers, they're out there. Listen, that's how important you are. How about you, Steven?
I'll go with someone who wasn't my 101 or level 1 teacher, although I think he has taught level 1. But after I finished at UCB, I was on a few indie teams, and I ended up coincidentally for 3 years in a row. Josh Simpson, who's a LA-based improviser, was the coach of our team. And what I enjoyed about working with him as a coach every week, because plenty of times when you go into like a rehearsal for a team, like the coach will ask you, so are you working on anything? And oftentimes it's like, no. And so then the coach is like, all right, I guess we can do blah, 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 blah. But like Josh was someone, when you'd present him with that, it's like, oh, that's amazing, because I've been working on this other idea. Would you want to try it? And like he would use this as like his experimental lab. And like just to like have someone share and welcome that creativity in like a rehearsal space has been very informative for me, both as a player and an instructor.
Awesome. I love that. These are new names for me. Now I'll go like search them and stalk them on Facebook. That's what I do. Good. Oh, I love to hear people talk about the teachers that really have inspired them. Who are some people that you've played with and done improv with that inspire you? Because I think sometimes it's the people we share the stage with that can be some of the biggest inspirations, or people you've seen, you're like, ooh, I want to play with that person. So let's shout out some names, give some improv love. Anybody got some teammates they want to talk about, or some people aspirational? I mean, I want to play with Wayne Brady someday. I mean, but, don't we all? Don't we all? Elke and I are right there on the same page today. So who's someone that you can think of? I mean, I could start. Jen Bianchi, who coaches Elke and Chris. She's always someone I want to play with because she's such a big presence and just brings such joy and energy to a scene. And I know that I don't even know what's going to happen in a scene with her, but it's going to be so much fun that I don't even care. So that's sort of how she's definitely someone that stands out for me. Who? Any thoughts?
The one thing that I think about often is my the first team I try to get together. I try to get a team together of at least 3 to 4 people. It didn't really work out. I ended up recruiting just one, and it was Giovanni Vargas, and this was at the Pit, and he took a chance. Because he was new in it with me, so we were kind of on the same level with as far as our classes. But I was like, let's do it. Let's do, because I wanted to perform. Like, once you get that bug in you, you're like, oh man, I want to do this. I don't want to just, do a jam. I want to do a show. And I was doing shows. I was like I'd be in classes. I was in my level 1 class, but had already done shows. You know what I mean? So I that's why I started the team. So we would perform. And with him, our scenes would be super grounded. It would be almost dramatic, but we would definitely hit that funny hard. But we always got dark and deep. I think one what was it? One scene we did, we were I was Goofy and he was Mickey Mouse, and it was about cheating. But it was like The Sopranos, it was deep. We went there. There was another one, I was having Nosferatu's baby. I wanted to kill it. He was like, no. And it was I have to say, he's the best scene partner, best teammate I've ever had. And he was the first, you know what I mean? I guess, the first is usually the best, but for real, we used to go in. You know what I mean? I mean, he lives in LA now. But I would love to, we need a reunion. If you're listening, Giovanni, I'm gonna tag you with this. We need to do some more improv.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that it was your first. That's fantastic. Chris, Steven, how about one of you all? Who inspires you? Who do you like to play with?
Yeah. I mean, I want to shout out everyone I play with and everyone I've ever played with. I will give a special shout out to Adam Gottfried. We're in this duo, Happy Place, together, and that was my first performing indie team experience, and just getting to be in a duo, be in the trenches, knowing someone's got your back like that. Besides the fact that he's just this warm, wonderful person and a great friend. And he's moving to LA.
Hook him up with Steven. Give him his details. Right? Yeah. They can do a meetup. They can do a meetup in Brown.
Yeah, shout out.
All right, Steven, it's on you. Who inspires? Who do you like to play with?
Well, first I'll say I genuinely love playing with people who this is the first time they're ever doing a scene. A lot of improvisers hate that, but I enjoy the challenge of how can I justify everything you're saying to fit the who, what, where, and make this actually work. As far as the people I've actively rehearsed with and whatnot, one of the teams I was on for several years called Awkward High Five. I love all the people on that team, but one I'll mention, Brooke Anderson, only because I pride myself on not breaking and having good commitment. But anytime I laughed, it's probably because I was opposite of her in a scene. just like one of those people, it's like you can't help but look them in the eye and just like subtextually, it's like, this is so stupid, but we're doing it. Like, I don't know, there's just so much fun playing with her that it was hard to not laugh through.
Yeah, I totally get you. I'm not a person who breaks a lot, but there is one person that will break me almost every time. His name is Caleb Van Voorhees. He plays here in Charlotte. But him and I are just silly. His wife is always like, "You two are the weirdest and the most wonderful thing." And I'm like, "Yay. Glad you think that," because we're typically like doing these obnoxious love scenes and stuff together. So speaking of scenes and playing, this is one of my favorite questions to ask is, what type of improviser are you? How would you describe your improv play style? It's always a tough question for people.
It is. I
Yeah.
don't think I've been asked this before.
Yeah, but you learn so much when people answer this. So it's really kind of cool to see.
I would say I'll start, I guess. I used to be, I feel like the positive spin on it is I was a versatile player, but more neutrally, I was just a mid-energy player, like someone who could be high energy or low energy, which is like a great member to have on a team, but it's like I couldn't carry a team kind of thing, you know? It's like sort of, I had that role. And then the last few years, especially as I do more teaching, not to sound like arrogant or something, but I feel like I've become a very fundamental player because it's like twice a week I start the workshop with like, this is how we do like I get to hear that as well. I get to like also have to like try and show them like this is how you're supposed to do it. So like it forces me like all the time to be focusing on those fundamentals. And like that's the best part about improv too. Like the more you do that, like the biggest laughs I've ever gotten sometimes are just like identifying where you are. Like as simple as that is, that will get a huge laugh because we needed it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Cool. Elkie, any ideas? You figured out what kind of player you are?
I like to think that I'm a patient and attentive player. I've been told by somebody that I perform with it on an ensemble that I find out what the scene needs and I bring it. And it made me think because I was like, oh, I do I do that? Yeah, I do that. Because sometimes you just play and you don't realize what you're doing and you need those outside eyes to tell you what it looks like. Because I try to like be like all encompassing in the scene, even if I'm not on stage. Like I'm somehow in that scene. How? Right? Like that's how I'm always like trying to think what's about to happen, you know. But I also I said patient, but as sometimes, you know, sometimes you need that, you know, like at the jump, like a shock. So I guess that also plays into what is needed. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'm a player that gives you what you need.
Ooh, I like that. There you go.
Yeah.
That could be like a good bio. Elkie, the player who gets you what you need.
I don't know if that will work well with everyone.
How about you, Chris? What kind of player are you?
Yeah, I mean, Elkie, I love hearing you describe it that way. I feel like it really speaks to like the essence of improv, you know, to support. Yeah, so like as far as how I play, I strive to be a good listener. I hope in each scene that I'm being helpful and supportive. I'm someone for whom words have always been easy. So I would say like during my first 6 months or so as an improviser, I was probably like more of like a to borrow from like the pirate robot ninja terms, like I was probably like hardcore robot, not really moving on stage, not doing object work, just kind of like almost frozen. And then I worked on those things, like I worked on the physicality. And the last year, especially like every single time I'm doing remote improv, including audio only improv, I am doing like wild physicality in my apartment. I'm like doing intense object work. I've been working on playing big characters. So I hope that my duo partner Adam actually mentioned to me last night that he feels like that's something that he's seen more of from me are the pirate moves. So I hope that I'm becoming like a well-rounded player. That's part of what I'm striving for, but really like my goal is really to just be like very much in the moment, listen, react, support.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. Like I'm doing a river dance right now. You guys just can't see it. No, I'm totally being no, I'm not.
It's all in the
Right,
land.
you don't have to move it all. No, it's a great question. And okay, I'm glad that you said nobody had ever asked. Something I've been asking, and a couple months ago, my improv troupe had their 10-year reunion, and so I had 3 of our members on and asked this question, and they flipped it around. They're like, "Oh no, we're gonna tell you now what we think." So it's really interesting. So I highly recommend to those watching and those here, do it with the folks you play with the most. Ask them to tell you what kind of player you are, because it's really interesting. Some of our, like, how we feel we are isn't necessarily what they feel we are, and it wasn't necessarily negative. It was just interesting that they were like, "Oh, you're so committed and you do this," and I'm like, "What? Me? No." So it's really interesting to get that perspective from your teammates. So
Right.
highly
And,
recommend.
I want to tag on to the type of improviser I am, because of the pandemic, pretty much everyone's style has, had to have been altered. You can't do the same thing that you were doing on stage, right? So for me, the one thing that I really love about improv was it's live, right? It's live theater. You hear those instant
Mhm.
reactions, right? You know that it's working because you hear the laughs, right? Whereas, with Zoom Prov, you don't hear those laughs. You might hear your teammate or somebody on the show, you might hear one, right? So that's an adjustment, because that, for a lot of improvisers, that's gauging what's working, right? So now you have to retool how you work what's gonna work, right?
Yeah. No,
Like,
I
just
yeah, I
throw it up
totally
there.
totally get that. I was telling someone that, like, I felt like as an improviser, I used to completely pander to an audience, right? Like I was like, "Oh, they're laughing at this. I'm going to do more and more and more of it." And now on Zoom, which is primarily how I perform, like I have to trust my own instincts, and I think that that's really helped me be like, I know this is right. It doesn't matter if someone laughs. I know if this is right. Whereas sometimes when I was on stage, I was like, "Are they going to laugh at that?" So I find myself trusting in myself more, which I think is a great growth for myself as an improviser. So speaking of growth, my last question is my favorite. What advice would you give to your younger improv self? So when you were just starting out in improv, what would you tell that person now?
I would say, don't stop being so mad. Because I think that's a default, when, for newer improvisers, to always, "Oh, what are you doing? What's happening? Why is that there?" Like, and I still do that, but I found a way to make it work. So I would say, slow down on that until it works. But try to be happy in your scenes and like the person you're talking to.
Yeah, conflict is so easy, especially in the beginning. I know I was a big conflict player myself. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I think that I would tell my brand new improviser self, um, hang in there because you won't be alone for much longer. So, like, I was immediately obsessed with improv, and I was kind of in this strange place for the first few months because I didn't know anyone else who was obsessed. There wasn't that same like level of passion, or at least that I didn't see it. Maybe in my classmates who were all wonderful people, but I just didn't see it there. And when I would go to the shows, I would feel an affinity with the performers, but I didn't know the performers, and at the time I thought, like, who am I, to even really like try to engage with these people who have been doing improv for I don't know how long. I felt the reality of that gulf between us. And like I had mentioned CSC Seattle earlier, and the person who runs that theater, Alex Grindeland, he took a chance on me in May of 2019 by casting me in The Loop. And so I was able to like learn the Armando and perform it. And I was able to connect with like over 20 long form improvisers in the Seattle community, seeing them every week. And, you know, and then getting to like hang out after practices and stuff. And that changed my life. I didn't know that that was going to happen. So like in those early days, like it was like a strange period of a mixture of like, of joy of like experiencing this new thing and taking in all these shows and getting to do scenes, and just like being in this like in between place. So yeah, I'm happy to not be alone anymore, and that's what I would tell my day one self.
And I'm sure as we've gone online, you've seen you are definitely not alone. There's so many. I like to call them improv scholars, Chris. I feel like you're like an improv scholar. Like you,
Goodness.
yeah, you go out there and you research and you read and you just embrace and absorb all of that. And there's so many people like that I've met online. But I don't know that I had people like that in my class either. So I think that's kind of refreshing. So
I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Stephen, how about you? What would you tell young Stephen?
I would tell young Stephen, I guess it's similar to what Chris was saying, but I would tell myself that you can belong here. It's very easy to feel like, because like there's the skill set involved and you watch people who are so good at it and it's like, I don't know how I could ever be that good. And then there's also like the social part and it's like, oh, there's like this inner circle and it's like, I don't know if I'm like one of the cool people, like, but like improv is so inclusive. And the other thing too, as you go on with it, and this is true of acting as well as improvising. And a great thing about like Global Gab and other things of the last year where we have these very open dialogue conversations now is it's really revealing just how almost everybody is loaded with anxiety or nerves or some sort of pulsing heart rate that they have to like calm down. And it's like we watch all these people and like, wow, how do they do it? And it's like, no, it's happening to them right now. They have found a way to get through it. And so like if I could have told myself that would, I mean, I probably wouldn't be here, but that would be what I would have told myself.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It's been very revealing. Our last Global Gab, we had this whole conversation about why so many introverts are improvisers, because everyone's like, "Oh, I'm such an introvert," and it's just so interesting that we choose maybe one of the hardest art forms of all, introverts, which is like going out there with like no parachute. So it's really quite interesting that that's where so many introverts are gravitating towards improv. But yeah, it is nice to know that everyone's having those moments of heart palpitations, imposter syndrome, anxiety, and all of that stuff. I know I still constantly will turn on one of these Zoom rooms and there'll be people in the room with me. I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't need to be playing with these people. These people are fantastic. So yeah, it's great to hear that other people feel that way as well. Well, we are almost out of time. My gosh, this goes so fast. This has been so much fun. I always love to end with the opportunity for you each to share some of the projects you're working on, and anything that you would like to promote, show, workshop, class, and I'll put those in our Facebook chat as well so that anyone watching can click on them. But does anyone have something they want to share or promote or talk about before we wrap up? Go ahead, Elke.
Okay. You mentioned it earlier. Every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I have the Elke and Asadi show, and we perform with Extreme Improvisers, which is another platform that I perform on, Extreme Improv. They do shows 4 times a week now, actually, with my show, and it's an opportunity, a great opportunity for improvisers around the world to play short form improv games. So if you guys are interested out there, anybody listening, Extreme Improv.
Yeah, David's fantastic. Yeah, David runs a great place. So
yes, I also perform with Improv Chattanooga, and I'm teaching a workshop on April 20th and with And University. And Theater Ensemble, and it's April 20th from 6 to 7:30.
You're teaching a 420 workshop. I love it.
And you can get the information at Elke TV on all the platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube,
Awesome.
Radio Shack.
Fantastic. Great. Chris, how about you? Anything you want to share or?
Yeah, so definitely check out the improv shows on Bandit Theater's Facebook. There's a bunch of shows already there in the video section. Most of the shows are premise-based, long-form, audio-only improv where there's like a guest interview that's on video where we pull ideas from, and also the BAT is organic long-form improv. Like keep an eye on Queen City Comedy. So excited for the all women / non-binary teams. My goodness. And also like, I love to coach so much. I send like a follow-up email after each session. I like research ahead of time and find resources for my students. So if you're interested in like a free introductory session, just send me a message on Facebook. Would love to chat.
Great, fantastic. Yes, our women's teams will be debuting sometime this spring. We're very much looking forward to it. They're getting close. They're getting close. They got to come up.
I wanted to plug it, but I didn't have a
I know there's there's this huge debate on team names right now, which I'm enjoying following. It's making my day. I love improv team names. Oh, they're so good. All right, Stephen, what would you like to share or promote or talk about as we wrap up?
I'll promote and share two different things. One, I run my own improv workshop called Community Improv. Pretty generic name, but that's kind of the point. But I do that every Sunday and Wednesday. That's free. Anyone can go in and drop in for that. The most central hub to find that, if you go to communityimprov.org, I put it on Meetup and Eventbrite and other places, but you can find all of that there. And then the other share I would give, it's not improv related, although it is creative industry related. It's not my nonprofit, but I do work for a nonprofit called Everyday Action, and they take food from film sets, catering, crafty, that's uneaten, and redistribute that to those in need. So if you're in LA, they always need volunteers or potential employees, and if not, you can always donate to them. But their website is youreverydayaction.org if anyone is interested.
That is wonderful. I always wondered what happened to craft services food after it was
thrown away traditionally.
Yeah. Yes. Oh goodness. See, I love when the improvisers and actors are giving back too. That's even more exciting. We here at Queen City Comedy have an arm called Queen City Comedy Cares that's run by the wonderful Ryan Sullivan, and we go out to food banks and we do shows at recovery centers and stuff like that. And I've missed doing that this last year. So that's one of the things I'll be looking forward to once I'm vaccinated and the world is in a better place. So, well, thank you all three for being here today. This was just a joy. I could talk about improv forever and hear folks talk about improv forever. We are going to host 2 more of the Global Gabs and then wrap up season 1. So stay tuned for the dates and the guests that are coming. I always like to end my shows with us all waving awkwardly as we stop the live stream. Yeah, there we go. We could do the improv dance. Yay, improv baby. Great. And thank you all. All right, I think